I started using drugs when I was 11. So it was, I definitely wasn't making records at that time. So I was exposed to it really, really young, and there was a lot of things that happened to me as a young person that were really difficult to deal with. I know that for me, when I'm inside myself, when I'm in my own head, it gets this place right here, this skull between my ears. That is a bad neighborhood.
With his unfortunate passing irrevocably shaking the music world, Chester Bennington's untimely death was a glaring reminder of the pitfalls many artists face in the music industry. While Bennington's chapter may have ended, his impact on the metal genre will never be understated. Let's take a closer look at his lyrics on Linkin Park's 2017 album, One More Light, and how his artistic expression shaped the band, including the aftermath of what truly defines their music, after the heart dies in the fourth and final episode of Evermore Sound, Revisited. When May 19th of 2017 rolled around, Linkin Park would release their seventh studio album. The album would depart away from their earlier alternative rock and metal foundation. When it debuted, it was much to the dismay of fans. In some ways, the fan base they worked to build felt like it wasn't the band they'd grown to love. In their mind, the band had lost some of their authenticity. As we rewind, One More Light was Bennington's examination and revelation of his personal life without prying eyes and harsh scrutiny. With Vulture magazine explaining, "Even without the overly harsh rhetoric, there's some confusion here. Those who remember Linkin Park, the group that sold 11 million copies in America of their debut album Hybrid Theory and 6 million copies of its follow-up Meteora, may wonder if the band was ever not pop. Heavy guitars have never disqualified an act from being designated as such." This meant that Linkin Park was receiving backlash for supposedly changing their earlier sounds to match the music industry climate. Vulture magazine continues, "Linkin Park's formation was facilitated, like many popular 90s bands, by the California public high school system, as the band had plenty of time to practice. Coming at the tail end of the rap nu metal wave, they had many exemplars to emulate." Clearly, Linkin Park was a product of their time, capitalizing off of the fresh wave of nu metal, which had become commonplace. The gritty sounds of Linkin Park spoke to a legion of fans, so One More Light was a step in a different direction for the band as a whole. As Rolling Stone mag's Corey Grow wrote in 2017, "Bennington had always been open about his struggles with addiction and depression, but those close to him were shocked by his suicide." As their album Meteora highlighted, Bennington and Mike Shinoda were a force to be reckoned with, supremely displaying the ways that sadness had plagued their personal life. This is more than evident on a track like Paper Cut. As the Metal Injection website laments, "Then again, this is metal, and metal is not supposed to be all soft and nice." They continued by stating what some fans already understood. Despite people calling them sellouts for switching up their sound on records like 8,000 Suns or Minutes to Midnight, they never let the change in sound get in the way of their core message. The same can be said for an album like One More Light. Tracks like the title track, One More Light, and Heavy featuring Kiara are more exemplary of this idea. The band had not changed their sound, rather Bennington's singular vision had positioned the band's artistic direction to better suit his troubled life. We believe the album was the swan song that would be remembered as Bennington's last record with Linkin Park. On the 20th of July, his chapter ended as somberly as it had began, with suicide by hanging. On October 27th of 2017, bandmates and friends gathered to pay respect, including Blink-182, Korn, System of a Down and others. With Bennington's unfortunate passing, many new things came to the surface. As fans now realize, the band's music was a conduit for his pain, but he had revealed a lot of the hurt from his childhood in past interviews. Bennington told NME, "No one in my family molested me," he recalled. "It was people who were around me. Coming from a broken home, it was easy to fall into thinking, this is okay." On behalf of a tough and isolating childhood, Bennington began to abuse drugs. Back in 2016, he told Kerrang, "I'd smoke a bunch of crack, do a bit of meth and just sit there and freak out. Then I'd smoke opium to come down. I weighed 110 pounds. My mom said I looked like I stepped out of Auschwitz. So I used pot to get off drugs. Every time I'd get a craving, I'd smoke my pot. Yet his drug addiction would be replaced by alcohol. I think he was working to fill the void that plagued his mind since he was young. For Bennington, the drugs numbed the pain and quelled the sadness from coming to the forefront of a chaotic mind. Bennington knew he could not remain in the clutches of addiction for long. Because of that, he sought out rehab services in 2006. He told Team Rock, "I had a choice between stopping drinking or dying. I did some counseling with the guys and they really opened up and told me how they felt. I had no idea that I had been such a nightmare. I knew that I had a drinking problem, a drug problem, and that parts of my personal life were crazy, but I didn't realize how much that was affecting the people around me until I got a good dose of here's what you're really like. It was a shock. They said that I was two people, Chester and then that fucking guy. I didn't want to be that guy." The tragic death and passing of one of the greatest voices in metal music is one that leads us to re-examine the reception that was given to their 7th album. One More Light wasn't intended to be like their previous work. It was an outpouring of sadness for Bennington that removed all doubt for fans that he was struggling. Despite the past works being entrenched in sad lyrics, Bennington's heart was poured into this album because it was vulnerable and sensitive. It remains my favorite next to Minutes to Midnight. It showed that when the heart of the band dies, it's hard to repair and even more difficult to restart. When we try, we're left adrift and without purpose. For many fans, Bennington was that purpose. Without him, Linkin Park will never be the same. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and share.